That's Carrie Lake, one of the last pro-Trump candidates to lose their midterm election. An advisor to former President Donald Trump is, well, spilling some of the tea. Again, we already know. Nonetheless, this former advisor called him cheap. He said this, or they said this. We didn't lose because of Trump's rhetoric. Oh, that's an interesting take. We lost because Trump is cheap, said one advisor who spoke on condition of anonymity. Ah, yes, of course. You know, anonymity. As in, like, I don't want daddy getting mad at me for calling him cheap. Fun. Here's what he said. He left them all hanging dry. It gave a free shot for all the right-wing pundits to turn on him. Very dry. There was no wetness here. None to be found.
Where the water rushes out to sea because you could never handle it.
Could never handle it. So much dryness. Because all the water's gone. Went out to sea. Could never handle it. All right, so anyway. Obviously, this has to do with campaign donations, which Donald Trump raised a lot of money. Now, he said, oh, don't worry, I'm raising this money, so I'm going to help out Republican candidates that are running, but only the ones that are running the way that I want them to run, which is going all in on Donald Trump won the election. You have to say it. You have to say that Trump won the election and that there was massive voter fraud. Okay, well, they did. Nonetheless, he raised about $150 million. How much should he have left after the midterms? $94 million, about $95 million, basically, according to a HuffPost analysis of the latest available Federal Election Commission filings. That is despite being inundated with emails, fundraising emails, if you're a MAGA person, and text from Save America leadership saying, don't worry, I'm going to spend all this money. I'm going to spend so much money on helping Republicans win control of the House and Senate. Now, very likely, Republicans will take the House, maybe by a couple of seats. They've lost the Senate. So, well, there you go on that. And by the way, there are Republicans that did fairly well. They weren't Trump supporting Republicans, that's for sure. No, there were Republicans that were establishment. Which, by the way, I'll give you the numbers on how much establishment Republicans, the Mitch McConnells, spend on this primary. Or I'm sorry, not on this primary, on this midterm. But first, let's go to Scott Jennings. Scott Jennings is a GOP consultant who's close to Mitch McConnell. And he pointed out that Blake Masters' recent complaint on Fox News was that McConnell had not helped him enough in his losing Senate campaign in Arizona. Which is funny. Because, look, again, wait, Blake Masters, you're an incredibly Trumpy Republican. Why didn't you ask Trump for money? Interesting question. But no, apparently begging Mitch McConnell, please save me, save me, Mitch. Save me, Mitch. Where's my money, Mitch? I need money. Well, this guy says, Jennings, why isn't Masters asking McConnell to carry her around in a baby Bjorn when Donald Trump wouldn't? Which is an interesting imagery. Image right in your head there. Especially considering how, again, Donald Trump, literal man baby. But, okay, sure. But seriously, though, you know why Donald Trump didn't give any of his candidates money? He didn't care. He didn't care. Okay? He's going to use it on himself. The way that he always does. We know that. Now, that said, to be fair, Donald Trump didn't keep all of the money. He sprinkled it here and there. A little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit of kind of like fairy dust, I guess. Right? Just, you know, throw a little here and there. But here's where he spent it on. Trump's spending campaign totaled about $15 million through his new Make America Great Again Incorporated Super PAC in 5 states. $3.7 million in Arizona, $3.4 million in Georgia, $2 million in Nevada, $2.4 in Ohio, and $3.5 in Pennsylvania. McConnell's, however, leadership fund, this is his, establishment Republicans now, they spent $38.4 million in Georgia, $25.6 million in Nevada, $32.5 million in Ohio, $47.5 million in Pennsylvania, for a total of $144 million in those states. $144 million versus Trump's 15. Well done. Well done. Now, McConnell did not spend anything in Arizona, but did spend $80 million in three other competitive states where Trump had spent nothing: North Carolina, New Hampshire, and Wisconsin. So, well, there you go. Gee, I wonder if that's the reason why Republicans, establishment Republicans, did better than Trump Republicans. Well, look, that's, I think, one of the reasons. But the money is not the whole story. Now, that said, let's go to Mac Stepanovich, a lifelong Florida Republican consultant who left the party when Trump took over. He said this: to state the obvious, money matters, and a little money can matter a lot in these races, in close races, of which there are a gracious plenty this year. If Trump had spent his money and saved some of his acolytes from defeat, he might not be facing the insurrection in the GOP ranks that he must deal with now, which will end up costing him more than he saved. Now, look, again, he's partly right. Yes, money is important, but also there is candidate quality. But he is right on the nose when he says, yeah, if Donald Trump, if the midterms had gone much better, well, then of course Donald Trump wouldn't be getting drummed out of the party right now. No, of course not. Donald Trump would be, still sitting on top of the heap. No one would touch him. Ron DeSantis would not be ascendant. And so it really does show you that they were totally fine with Donald Trump and all the terrible things that he did until it started costing them elections. So that's very important admission there. Okay. Now, getting to another former senior Trump White House official, again, anonymity, right? He said, no, I don't think the money was the issue at all. It was the candidates. They were just bad. Quote, if you nominate candidates who voters find unappealing, the money doesn't really matter. And then specifically points at, how there are candidates who won Trump's support on the condition that they help him spread the lies about voter fraud, about the election being stolen from him. But again, getting back to the money, yes and no, right? Remember, where does the money go? Well, the money goes into ads, political ads. So now political ads, especially when it comes to right wing, but they're designed to do one thing: trick people, generally. Let me give you an example of one of the political ads. Now, this isn't related to a specific political campaign, but it is a conservative ad that was against Prop 3 in Michigan that would, of course, guarantee the right to reproductive freedom in the state. So now, this Prop 3 ad that I'm going to show you is, it's full on, essentially transpanic. Take a look.
This drug blocks a child from going through puberty. It's the first step in gender change therapy. Clinics prescribe this drug in Michigan. If Proposal 3 passes, minors as young as 10 or 11 will be able to receive this prescription without the consent of their parents, or their parents even knowing. They call it reproductive freedom. We call it extreme. Proposal 3 opens a Pandora's box. Only you can close it. Vote no on Proposal 3.
Oh my God, Pandora's box. Trans people, be scared. Again, there's nothing in Proposal 3 that even addressed any of those issues. But it just shows you how, ads are filled with lies and trickery. These are right-wing ads, as I said before. And so anti-choicers actually spend about $16 million in ads like that. It's amazing. Again, nothing in that ad is remotely true. And look, it lost because it didn't trick enough people. And so that's where the advertising really goes. But back to Trump, right? Well, again, a lot of these ads and all of this ad spending on Republicans didn't trick enough voters to come out and support Republicans who are openly fascist. Again, if you're openly if you're saying we need to completely ignore what happened in this election, we're going to redo the election, we're going to install Donald Trump even though he didn't win, that's fascism. Fascism. So now Trump, in addition to the $15 million he spent in the Senate races, Trump also spent money on himself, specifically a revenge tour against Republicans who crossed him, with most of that being against Brian Kemp in Georgia. Kemp, of course, pushed back against Donald Trump's claims of course, election fraud, voter fraud, etc. So Kemp, of course, also won. And, by the way, $650,000 went to Wyoming Values, a committee created to defeat Republican Representative Liz Cheney. Well, that happened to be successful. Liz Cheney's gone. But, and look, that's because Liz Cheney, despite being a horrible person, actually did her job to try to hold Donald Trump accountable and to make a case for the Department of Justice. And we're just, waiting on the Department of Justice to actually, do something with all that information. But anyway, in this spring, by the way, Trump also gave $1 million to American Leadership Action, which at the time was attacking Republicans, Republican rivals to Dr. Oz, who got crushed by John Fetterman, and another $1 million to Our American Century, which was also attacking opponents of Dr. Oz, as well as trying to beat Representative Nancy Mace, who criticized Trump's incitement of the U.S. Capitol riot, but in the end did not vote to impeach him. So basically what he did is spent money on personal grudges while barely helping his own candidates in the general election. And then, by the way, goes and blames them for losing after they even endorsed his message of voter fraud. Again, Blake Masters being yelled at by Trump. Oh, you didn't lean into voter fraud hard enough. It's like, no, Mr. President, believe me. I definitely believe in the mass voter fraud. Really, I do. I still believe it. Oh, you don't believe it hard enough. We're not going to give you any money. I mean, look. And by the way, they also, when it comes to Karen Lake, Trump's like, oh, Karen Lake lost because mass voter fraud. Because of course. No, they lost because they're garbage candidates. Even when it comes to Republicans, they were garbage. And again, Republican candidates are generally garbage enough. But no, these were worse. Now, other reasons, of course, Republicans lost. Roe, of course, galvanized people across the country. And, of course, Democrats had some good candidates. Squad members had won, or new squad members, I should say. And then, of course, you had candidates like John Fetterman, who ran on, guess what? Popular policy ideas. Huh, weird. It turns out, popular things are popular. Who knew? It would get people to vote for them. But look, and also, you know what else is popular? Democracy. And not fascism. Look, I don't think any amount of money could have saved these candidates, but I also wouldn't go ascribing any smart political foresight on the part of Donald Trump. But of course, inevitably, you're going to get some right-wing pundit out there who's going to take this report and do just that. But like, oh, Donald Trump was so smart to not spend his money on these loser candidates who lost because of voter fraud and save it for himself. Yeah, okay. Cope and seethe, friends. Cope and seethe. No, you kept, again, the reason that he kept the money was, so it could be summed up in one word. Mine. That's how he views everything. Mine.